All right, so I can't put the camera down because my daughter is gonna destroy it. Oh, yes. Okay, so I put a post up this morning about what is the best way to train for jiu-jitsu as far as strength training or grapplers. And to be honest with you, there's kind of a catch to it, okay? Because there could be a lot of answers to this. So I'm gonna go ahead and start breaking them down. I like to talk a lot, so I'll do my best to keep it short. If there's a certain topic or a certain protocol that I'm talking about today that you would like to see more about, I'll show you oh, you can't see the whiteboard. Anyway, I like whiteboards and I can make a workout and just discuss it while we go through. So, all right, so the best way grapplers should train as far as strength training for jiu-jitsu is basically the one they can actually stick to, okay? There is no such thing as a best program out there. You see a lot of programs out there really emphasizing on really unique moves, really cool box jumps and throws and things like that, and they're all positive and can be utilized effectively. The only issue is that is a power training move or a speed training move, and many people can't even move correctly, much less start throwing med balls correctly, power clean snatches, jumping up onto boxes, throwing things. So it's a very beneficial way to train, but it's just basically ludicrous. It's a way to market yourself and sell a program that actually does probably work very, very well, but just doesn't really do shit for the mass population. So if you are into grappling, you are into jiu-jitsu, and you're looking into how to strength train, you're simply gonna need to focus on what you can do. Now, if you can't squat down without rolling onto your toes and your heels being elevated, then you need to work on squatting. And so this is a program that I'm working on myself on creating the functional grappler, and phase one is going to be basically the foundation. This is the movement patterns. So you'll see a lot of different things like gymnastica and things like that that are very, very good. They mimic a lot of our movements. Some people call them animal flows. All of those things are positive, but at the same time, I know a lot of people who have locked up thoracic regions, locked up lumbar regions, and doing these moves, no matter how beneficial they may be to jiu-jitsu, they're not gonna help you because you actually can't move correctly, okay? And so a lot of people are busted up in different ways, so you need to focus on evaluations. Eval, can I move, all right? Do I have poor external rotation of the shoulders? Do I have poor internal rotations of the shoulders? If I do, is it my shoulder the problem, or is it my thoracic region? Is it my trap 3, okay, way down in the mid-back? Is it my lat attachments, which seems to be a very big issue with many people? You can see people do a lot of chins, but they can't do pull-ups because they can't internally rotate the humerus. So you gotta focus on what you actually can do. Now, let's take a look at a lot of different other aspects, such as training volume, all right? I know a lot of guys that work out 3 days a week, pretty heavy, pretty a lot of volume, I guess you could say, but at the same time, they only do jiu-jitsu 3 times a week, all right? I know some guys in their early 30s that train like that. I know some guys in their early 20s that train like that. I also know some guys in their late 30s who can't train like that, even though they're only training 3 days a week in jiu-jitsu. Even though they're not even rolling hard, which that can be completely different. You may train 3 days a week and only roll hard once. That's completely different on your body than training 3 days a week and rolling hard every single day. So I have other people who are out there training, lifting heavy weights. They like to follow the West Side method, okay, or Elite Fitness, Jim Wendler's 5-3-1. This became very, very popular early 2000s when you start seeing some MMA guys shoot over to West Side and start training. Did they have success? Absolutely they did. All right, they got stronger, they got faster. Why? Well, two reasons. One, they don't know what the fuck they're doing when it comes to working out. So going somewhere that actually knows what they're doing, they're automatically going to get results. Two, well, Westside's been proven time and time again that their shit works, all right? But as time goes on, a lot of those guys dropped out and didn't really stay. Not that the method didn't work. That's okay. That's okay. I'm building a gun cabinet and my daughter knocked down one of my doors. Or gun safe, whatever. So the accumulative volume and abuse on the body becomes really, really hard when using powerlifting methods. I've never been a fan of using the powerlifting schemes, the rotations of the bench, the deadlift, and the squat as far as like strength training for MMA. Like you see people say, okay, so you hear strength coaches say things like this all the time. Well, if you're a hockey player, you need to train like a hockey player, not like a football player. Now, you have people like Mike Boyle, who I highly, highly, highly respect. And he'll say, every athlete should basically train the same. That is true, without getting into specifics. So, if you're an athlete, why are you training like a power lifter? All right, so you need to ask yourself that question. Just because you can get away with it because you're 26, 25, 27, 31, doesn't mean it's always the best option for you long term. Now, some systems you're going to use are going to work better for your early 20s, and then another system you use will work better for your 30s, and another system will use work better for your 40s. That's me. I'm 43 years old, and my system has changed drastically compared to what it was 5 years ago, much less 10 years ago. All right, I used to work out 2-3 days a week, and it was some serious hardcore complexes. But I also was only training sometimes 3 days a week due to my life and my schedule at work. Now I train sometimes 7 times a week. All right, if I do 7 times a week, my strength training goes really, really low in volume. I only work out twice a week. I keep it extremely basic, because I know I'm getting a lot of reps and a lot of conditioning on the mats themselves. Because if I'm going 7 days a week, most likely 3 of those are classes I might be teaching, but the other 4 of those are going to be competition prep classes coming up for upcoming shows and things like that with other competitors. So I know I'm going to be upping the anticipation, upping the volume, upping the intensity of my mat time, so I need to decrease that into the weight room. I still like full body workouts. That's the best thing for grapplers, hands down. Okay, full body is simply as something like 1 upper body strength movement, 1 lower body strength movement. Huh, Layla? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, who you seeing? Who you seeing? Yeah, who's that? Layla Bog. So what we're gonna do is you'll say, let's say you take a standing overhead press and a squat. That's a full body workout. Those 2 movements right there with the proper rep and set schemes is all you need. That is a full body workout, okay? Sure, there's not rotations and things like that and stuff, but that is basically an upper body and a lower body exercise. People have the misconceptions when it comes to training grapplers is that, oh yeah, full body exercises. So they go and start doing body parts. Okay, well, I'm gonna do incline bench press, and then I'm gonna do chin-ups, and then I'm gonna do squats for my quads, but I gotta do deadlifts so I can hit my hamstrings. Then I forgot, well, I gotta do glutes, because gotta work my glutes. So I'm gonna do hip thrusts, because that's gonna help, my hips and my lower back. Oh man, well, I got my shoulders, so we'll do dumbbell shoulder press, because I did bench press, so I'll do some dumbbells instead. And then I'll just finish off with some arms, and then I got some abs. That is a fucking bodybuilder workout. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. Why would you do that as a grappler? I don't even understand that. When I see this, I'm like, I have to understand that that's why they're coming to me. They don't understand how to strength train, okay? So my workouts are extremely simplistic most of the time, all right? If you're all busted up, we're gonna work on movement patterns, We work on making sure your spine can flex, okay? We make sure your spine can extend. We want to make sure that we're not shifting our hips, moving our knees. We're not compensating all over the place just to get the work done, all right? If it comes into straight strength training, we are just extremely very simple. If there's a push, there's a pull, and there's a leg movement. And if we have time, there's a rotation movement, all right? So I keep things very simple and very straightforward. Will you work out twice a week? Yes. Will you work out 3 times a week? There'll always be the option, because if your life permits, I will allow you to train 3 days a week. Most likely, if it's not too taxing, it will be a typical load that I would set up for you. We would use daily undulating, which will help you recover way more efficiently and get you stronger without feeling beat down in the joints for jiu-jitsu or grappling in general or MMA. Then from there, we'll start working once you're at the correct level to start implementing power movements. We'll start moving into power phases. Everything is block training with me. I'm classically trained. I'm not the biggest fan of conjugated training, putting everything together. I don't mind doing that in a week, but I'm not a fan of doing that in a workout itself. It has shown to work very, very well. After training many years and training many other athletes, I've seen that just having a day dedicated to power just seems to be more beneficial. We will throw in some speed and some rotation work with med ball work at the beginning through the warm-ups to help prime the nervous system, really get those fast twitch fibers working. Now, with that said, though, a lot of power movements such as typical power cleans and snatches and things like that, I don't really teach that to anyone just for the fact that it's a complicated movement. And if you know them, that's perfectly fine, but I don't really implement that type of stuff because it's just too difficult for them to learn, and it's best to serve the time doing stuff that just gets the job done. You know, we can do throws on many different ways and use that to develop good power movements, especially with complex training. A really good book would be, I think it's Complex Training. But you can't get it though, it's out of print. I bought one of the last copies, I think, on Amazon a couple of years ago. It's a fantastic book. It pairs up just exercises for complexes for our strength and power movements. But if you can find it, I think Fleck wrote it, William Fleck, so you can check out Complex Training. That's a good book. But that'll help you get into like power movements. So with all that said, a lot of people get away really good with actually just doing body weight training, all right? And that's pretty much where I lend myself nowadays, being 43, with the amount of volume that I put into my workouts. I find it to be more beneficial that way. I have one strength movement that I have mapped out for sometimes 15, 16, 18, 24 weeks. I will use my periodization for those specific movements. It will be a power movement. There will be a leg movement. There will be a pulling movement. Yes, I periodization pulling movements. I am unlike most people because everyone is used to powerlifting style where it's all presses. The only pull they get is deadlift. I only periodization one leg movement at a time. So that means if I'm working with squats, we don't even focus on deadlifts, all right? I'm focused on just getting stronger in the squat fashion. And it could be single legs, which is most of the time, which is more beneficial for athletes. So I'll use that one movement, and then I'll use a lot of body weight training. And then that's where my volume will come in for more conditioning. And depending on what phase I am, if I'm in the aerobic phase, I'm in mid-tier phase, moving into competition phase, where I will implement certain types of lactic endurance training, either through weights, which most of the time I'm not the biggest fan of because technique can break down, you can hurt yourself. That way we implement more like the CrossFit style, so we don't want to hurt ourselves. I'd rather do that on the road. And I also like to do strongman training. I would just simply go out there, pick up Atlas stones, carry logs, things like that, pull the sleds outside, flip the tires. And that mimics more form boy strength, which is kind of basically the way I grew up. And you'll still find training like that will smash another human being faster than anything else. So I hope this kind of breaks down a little bit of the madness out there. Do what works best for you, okay? What works best for you is what works in your schedule. What works best for you is what allows you to stay on the mats and be healthy. Remember, you want to be broke. Okay, you don't want to be broken down, but you want to be broken down from training on the mats, not training in the weight room. All right, you are an athlete. We train in the weight room specifically for injury prevention, meaning we strengthen the integrity of our joints. We strengthen our tendons. We strengthen our muscles so we can withstand the abuse of our sport. If we do get hurt, that strength alone will allow us to bounce back quicker. Then from there, we will use it for performance, okay? Nothing will out-trump going to practice. Practice is the best thing you can do. Always spend your time on technique. You'd be amazed on how you just doing simple body weight movements every day will keep you fresh, keep you strong, and just as active as any other guy on the mat. All right? Train smart. If y'all have any more questions, let me know. Specifically, definitely, can you give me some tips for striking strength training? Okay, so that goes back to more of the can you move properly? I can start, okay, so for instance, when I was first start training Dustin Poirier, we worked on a lot of different systems, all right? And while he was fighting for the UFC, we worked on a lot of different things that until we found what worked best for him. And Dustin can't do power cleans, and he couldn't do snatches, okay? So we focused on very simple, simplistic speed training movements to help with strength training, like in striking, okay? So we did very simple. I started with things such as like a push press. Then we moved into push jerks, okay? Simply just shooting a bar above the head, all right? We worked on explosive bench press, all right? We also worked on a lot of different types of plyometric push-ups. We worked on a lot of different plyometric dumbbell pulls. These are, I'm sure other people do them, but I don't ever really see anyone else do that stuff. But I do a lot of explosive pulling because in grappling, regardless if it's MMA, no-gi, jiu-jitsu, pulling is extremely, extremely important, all right? So you don't see a lot of people doing explosive power pulling moves, mainly because you see a lot of people following that powerlifting style workouts. Nothing wrong with that, just not the best option in my opinion for strength training for grappling. So we'll do a lot of pulling things like that. We moved in from weights, then we moved into bands. So that way we can allow the deload to tail off more easily. He can increase that strength. He can increase the speed of the movement. And all that will eventually entail work back into creating more speed. More specifically for that striking strength training, we did a lot of med ball work. All right, a lot of explosive work for very, very long rest periods because we're trying to develop the nervous system to move faster. Now, when we wanted to work on speed and endurance, we did med ball complexes, and we implemented that as actually part of his conditioning methods. So one of the things that Dustin really, really liked to do is we conditioned twice a week. One was like a dumbbell circuit, all right, or a barbell complex. And then the next day we did basically more just body weight movement or just straight running. Things to take it easy on the joints, because remember, he was sparring a lot, okay? So you had to manage that fatigue level of the abuse that you're taking on the mats themselves. Nothing's going to get you faster in striking than basically just perfect technique, obviously. So work on your technique, video yourself, make sure everything is coming out fast, all right? Complex training would be really, really good for that. That would be simply doing something like a dumbbell flat hammer press, and then simply doing a mid-ball push press, you know, something like that. Okay, and that'll help with striking. That can go on and on and on. But get complex training for if you're trying to improve your striking. All right. So let's see if there's any more questions. No. Okay. So I hope that helps out. I know, like I said, I'm long-winded. If there was anything that I talked about, like body weight training, strongman training, you would like to see more of a breakdown on how I would sequence that out, I will hit you up on the whiteboard and show you how that works. All right? Y'all have a good one. Turn that shit off.